Hello folks, welcome to our canal channel Jose. Today we're going to give you an idea how to replace the valve cover gaskets or seals on a 94 to 2001 Acura Integra with a vtec engine. So this is a dual overhead cam as well. So we have the gasket set here. It cost us about $39 and it's made by Felpro, and then part number is V as a Victor S5498R. So that's the part number, and then we're gonna show you procedures how we do it, so that way you need to do this, it's easier and you can do it at home without taking it to shops, and that way you can save a lot of money on labor. With that said, let's get started. So here's our valve cover, here's our gasket, and the brand is Felpro, and the part number is right here, and this is for the vtec. So to replace that gasket or the seals, we gotta remove this silver cover for the spark plug wires, remove the spark plug wires, remove the ground from this area that goes to the chassis, and then once we do that, we take this hose off that goes is a breather to the intake, and once we do that, we can start removing all the nuts that secure that valve cover to the head, so we can remove it and start putting the new gaskets. To start, we take off the silver cover for the spark plug wires, 2 nuts here and 2 nuts here. We take those off so we can remove the cover off. The only thing that you're gonna need for this is a 10 millimeter socket for this. So they're all 10 millimeters, and then maybe a pliers for the clamp. But then now once we remove the cover, we're gonna remove the ground, and that's a 10 millimeter socket as well. So once you remove the wire, put the bolt in there so that way you don't lose it. So now what we have to do, once we remove the ground from this area, we have another bolt back here that is holding the power steering line into the valve cover. So we need to remove this 10 millimeter back here, so that way we can we start clearing out everything in the valve cover when we take it out. So we take off that bolt too. So it's the one from the ground and the one for the power steering. So now we have to disconnect all the spark plug wires out of there. So what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna base ourselves on the length of the spark plug wire. But if you wanna mark them, where this is 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, depends on the order you wanna do it. But for us, it's gonna work on the length of the spark plug wires, because one is shorter, and there's from the shortest to the longest one, so we can't miss it. So we're gonna be using the length of the spark plug wires, but whatever works for you, that way everything falls right where it was. And the reason we're changing these gaskets, because we don't know the condition of the gasket, is because there's oil right in each wire, or on this wire or spark plug is wet from the outside. So we know those gaskets fail the seal between the valve cover going into the cylinder or the sleeve of the spark plug. So that's the reason we're replacing these seals. So now that you remove all the spark plug wires, what you want to do is you want to take off this spark plug wire base. And to do that, once you remove all the spark plug wires out of it, so you don't break it, what it has a little tab here, you pull up and then you slide it out so it comes out and you don't break it. So this is how it looks from the side. You will pull up like this, and then it will release from there. So it will up and slide it out, so you get it out of there and you don't break it. So now we have this hose or this fitting that comes out of the head and is a breather. So what we need to put is, we gotta move this clamp back, take the hose off, and then that way we can pull the valve cover off the head once we unbolt it, so that hose stays in. Okay folks, what we're going to be doing, we have a replacement for that valve cover. As you can see, that one is chipping away from the paint, so we have one that is in better condition. So we're going to be using this. It's being clean, so we have it ready. So we're going to put the gaskets on this one, and we're going to just take that one out, and we're using this one. So we're going to save that one as well for later on, but for now we're going to be installing this, is because it's cleaner. It's the same valve cover, but just in better condition. So we're going to be using this. If you don't need to take off the spark plugs, don't do it. Leave them there until the last thing, because if you take them off and you get one of those nuts, you're replacing the spark plug as well, and then you get these nuts off of the valve cover and one of those drops in there and it goes straight down to the cylinder, you're going to have big problems. So you want to leave that to the last. So you want to leave the spark plugs in there, because that nut ended up inside the piston where the cylinder and the chamber is, and you don't want to rotate your engine, because that's going to break stuff or it's going to create damage. So don't take off your spark plugs until the last minute when you really going to replace them or do the last thing with the spark plugs, because if any of that stuff falls in there, you're in deep trouble. So the next step before we start taking off the valve cover, what we're going to be doing is we're going to dry out around where the spark plug is in there. You can see that spark plug is dry. That spark plug is dry. That spark plug is really dry too. And this one is wet. As we can see, shines all the oil in there. So we're going to dry it out. And this is the one with a lot of oil on it, as we can see. So for this task, we're going to be using this long Q-tip that we're going to shove in there, absorb some oil, dry it out on our microfiber, and do it again as much as we can until we get all that oil out of there. So now that we have dried out where the spark plug is, what we're going to be doing next is we're going to take off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 10 millimeter nuts, so we can extract our valve cover. So now we have removed our valve cover, and we want to show you that there's the gaskets. So now we're ready to take out the old gaskets out. The outer one, which is a blue one, the seal, and then the 4 ones in each sleeve for the spark plug has one seal. So that separates the oil from sipping into the sleeve or where the spark plug is from the valve system in there. So we remove 5 in total. So now we have to clean all the way around, get the old material off in case there's any to clean. That way when the new seal comes in and the new gasket is touching, it makes a good seal and there's no oil leaks anywhere else. So in the outer end and every sleeve for the spark plug as well. So all the way around, I clean that extra silicone or stuff that they have on it on with a utility blade. So that way, take all that off and I clean it really good for the new gasket to be in a clean surface. So now we have cleaned the gasket, the old gasket or seals, all that stuff out. So now it's clean, it's just aluminum. But what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be using starting fluid with a clean rag to clean the surface where the new gaskets are gonna sit. So that way all the oil that can contaminate the area where that is gonna be the gasket in there is dry, and that way it makes a better seal and it makes better contact against the metal. Do the same thing to the valve cover, so it creates a good seal on the valve cover as well, not just on the head. So here are the old gaskets or seals. Here are the new ones. So now when you're putting this gasket, what's happening is that it looks like it's the same both sides, that you can go either side, but no, this, you see this side is round. You got the hump for the camshaft comes out to the distributor. This side doesn't have anything on the corner where it makes the turn on the head, but this side it does. You see how the humps for the pulleys on the timing belt, and there's extra plastic here or rubber gasket. This and this goes towards the timing belt, so it will go like this: extra plastic, timing belt. So now we have put the outer gasket into the valve cover, and it pressed in into the groove. So it goes all the way around. This is the old valve cover. So it goes all the way around in that groove, and you press it in. You can see the groove. And once you do that, now we have left the ones in the for the spark plugs, which are those right there. So we put them in there. So now on these gaskets, you gotta be careful. They have there's a bottom and a top piece to it. This is the bottom piece to it, and this is the top. As you can see, we flip it over and this looks the same, but you can see that it has more plastic in one end, or rubber. So this is the bottom. This touches the valve cover. So this is the bottom and this is the top. So now what I do is, just once the gaskets are on, what I do is I add a little bit of gray silicone to these, all of them, just a little coat, and especially on the sharp corners where it might not seal because of the sharp corner. So I add a little bit of silicone on there, so that way I avoid leaks in the short term. So now what we have done is that's what I do. I add a little coat of silicone, so that way it makes a better seal. I know I just added on the side where it's touching the head. So those seals are gonna be making a better seal on one side. And now what I'm gonna do is gonna flip it and put it and guide it into the head, so that way and make sure that the gasket doesn't come out from anywhere. So now we have put the valve cover back on, and what you wanna do is you wanna center the valve cover with the spark plug holes, and you wanna be able to see the gasket, the red gasket in there, so it hasn't fallen off. And then you wanna go around and make sure that the gasket is in there all the way around. And then we can start putting the other gaskets that go in here to tighten the valve cover down. And these are the seals that we got to put on. They come with a washer, so we can put them on where the studs are, and we can tighten the valve cover down to the head. So there's 8 of these. So these are the old ones, example, and this is the new one. And they look like they're on one piece, but they're two pieces, the rubber piece and the metal piece. So when you're taking them out, they might come off from each other, and then that way you know that these might come off. This is the new one. So you wanna don't reuse them. Buy the new gasket set and use these, because you might have an oil leak in there. So these 4 nuts that they have all the way through, they go in the 1, 2, 3, 4. They go on those 4 bolts, because those tighten the valve cover. And then you put the spark plug wires in, and then you put the little plastic cover that goes in there. And that's why these have to go all the way through. So then the other cover goes in there, and then the other nuts that they just look like caps, they go on top to hold that little cap in there. Okay, what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna tighten the inner first. So we're gonna tie one side, we go to the other one, and then we come back to this side, and then we go to this side, and then we bounce around, so we tighten the valve cover down evenly. Okay, folks, so at this point we have put the valve cover back on. We tighten the 8 nuts that hold this valve cover down. And now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting this hose back connected to the valve cover, the ground from the chassis to the valve cover, the power steering line connected or bolted down to the valve cover, put our spark plug wires back in, put the little cover that covers the spark plug wires, and that should be the final procedure of this gasket replacement. So now we're going to put our spark plug wires in the order or the firing order. So we're referencing to the length of the spark plug wires. So we know that worked for us. So you want to put the spark plug wires back into the cylinder that they need to be at. So that way the timing and the firing order is on the right sequence. That way you don't have problems starting or running your engine again. Okay, folks, so the last thing we have to do is we got to put on the cover for the spark plug wire so the engine looks cleaner, and put it back on. We just got to put those 10 millimeter nuts, and we put them on, tightening them, and that will be the last step on this valve cover gasket replacement. Well, folks, hopefully this video was useful and helpful on how to replace the valve cover gasket on the 94 to 2001 Acura Integra GS-R. This is for the vtec engine, and we bought this gasket set for about $39. And if you do it yourself, you save a lot of money, and that way you know what you did to your car. And it's pretty simple. You don't have to remove too many components to take this valve cover off. And for our friends who are watching our video, haven't subscribed to our channel, please subscribe. If you like a video, give us thumbs up, share it, and we'll see you soon with more videos here in el canal, El Chano Jose.